Good morning. Today is Tuesday, May 26, 2015, and I call the Potter County Commissioners Court to order. Today we have Howie Batson from First Baptist Church who's going to do invocation. If you will please stand and remain standing for the pledge of allegiance to both flags.
Let's pray together. Father, we thank you for these who serve our community. I know it's a burden when your decisions impact the lives of others. Give them hearts of justice. May they protect the weak as well as the strong, the poor as well as the rich. Give them wisdom and give them grace when they disagree to respect the opinions of another. In his name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Agenda item number 1 is the approval of the minutes from the May 11, 2015 Potter County Commissioners Court meeting and also the May 18, 2015 public hearing.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Morgia, second by Commissioner Church. All in favor, raise your right hand, please. 0. Vouchers. Consider and act upon the approval of the payment of vouchers processed by the County Auditor's Office for the period of May 6, 2015 through May 20th, 2015. Check numbers 162222 through 162484 and wire transfers 457 through 554 in the amount of $3,005,506.93.
I move that we pay the vouchers as presented.
Motion and second. Any questions? All in favor?
I do have a couple questions,
Okay.
Judge. Page number 11 of 29, check number 162371. It looks like the laptop purchase, IT. I'm trying to remember if this was during the budget cycle we saw this laptop come through.
No, this was for a replacement for his unit that had become unusable and unrepairable, and it was out of warranty, so.
Okay. The next question I have is page 16 of 29, check number 162431. This is the courthouse palm print system in the amount of $28,148. Sheriff, will you help remind us of that system? If I remember correctly, we might have been replacing something that was here, but originally not.
It's a live scan machine that, we did not have one for the courthouse. We had a system that was not functioning for the courthouse, and we had a meeting in reference to whether or not the courthouse or the county would fund that machine. It's for whenever somebody's arrested here at the courthouse, they can actually print them. They don't have to go out to jail and get, they don't have to send the prints off by mail. So it was agreed that, the DA's office, the county clerk, county attorney's office, we all agreed that it was needed for the courthouse. So it's not a replacement, it's a new machine that was needed for the courthouse.
And Carrie, this would come out of general administrative instead of the security fund?
Correct. The general fund basically funds the city.
You're right.
So it's not like a general.
It's just the general, okay. Thank you.
We have a motion and second. All in favor, raise your right hand, please. 0. Number 3, budget amendments. To consider and act upon the approval of budget amendments for the current fiscal year. Any questions on those?
I do have a question. Number 2, to cover expenditures for 6th Street Annex, the amount of $4,200. I was just wondering what the repair was that needed to occur.
That was the water line that we had against us, 6th Street.
Yes.
The 4,200 was the water, okay, thank you.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second. get that? Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your hand. 5-0. Insurance report. Do you recognize the insurance fund reports Kay here today?
Yes.
There's nothing unusual. Okay. So recognized. Number 5, treasurer's report to approve the 2015 investment policy and the monthly treasurer's report. Good morning.
Okay, so this morning in text pool, which has kind of gone up, text pool is running at 6 basis points and text pool prime is 10. So, okay, a little bit of good news there. In text pool, we have 3.3 million. Text pool prime, I have 7 million. And then our Amarillo National Bank checking account is 9.4 million, earning 25 basis points. So our total just cash in our general fund is 19.9 million this morning. In Cedars, we have a 3 million. These are earning 35 basis points. That will mature July 30th. And then we have the 7 million that will earn 35 basis points until July 2nd. Remember the letter and the issue we had with Amarillo National Bank. And so in July, it will start earning 40 basis points. So that gives us a total of 29.9 million in total cash in our general this morning. And as far as the investment policy, there are no changes. I submitted a letter as well stating that there were no legislative changes. I checked with Dave as well to make sure that I had not missed any issues, and so it's presented as it is.
Have any questions on the policy?
Make a motion for
Leanne, just a quick question, will the committee stay the same, the investment committee? Okay. I don't know if that needs to be included with the policy.
It's actually stated, I believe, in the policy.
It's, okay, but not in the motion to restate the numbers or anything? Okay,
I mean, you can if you want to, but it's already set out in the policy.
okay.
Do I have a motion?
I have a question. This was great reading. I was just wondering, who wrote that thing?
It's a combination of a lot of classes and the other Dave was very instrumental as well, so. It's very.
If you haven't read it, you need to read it. It's riveting.
It is. It is. I couldn't put it down myself.
Just remember, it's once a year, so. Thanks, guys.
I make a motion to approve the Potter County investment policy according to Texas Government Code Section 2256.005.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand, please. 5-0. Number 6, Tiger Transportation Investment Generating Economic Recovery Project application. To consider and act upon a resolution in support of the City of Amarillo's application for funding for downtown Amarillo Complete Streets Initiative, Oak Street and 6th Street enhancements under U.S. Department of Transportation Tiger Program. Melissa Bailey. Good morning.
Good morning. I do have visuals, I can just speak to it, but I have visuals if y'all wanna see them, I don't know.
I think we could have a laptop.
There's not one.
There's not a laptop. Okay.
Okay.
So just talk.
Best I can.
We'll imagine.
Thank you for having me. I'm Melissa Bailey with Downtown Amarillo Inc. And we've been working over the last year on a project to look at Polk Street, especially that's where it really started. Looking at downtown redevelopment, as you know, we've been working on the Catalyst project, the hotel, and the ballpark, and the parking garage, but we've had a lot of input from the public, and my board particularly is interested in focusing on Polk Street and what we can do to enhance Polk Street. And so one of the things that we began to look at is the right-of-way. What can we do with the right-of-way? You know, we hear a lot of people say, why don't y'all do something with the bar field or the, pick your building? And we don't own all of those buildings, and we can put the incentives forward, but it's really up to the property owner or a developer to come in and purchase that building and do something with it. But what we can do is enhance the public right of way. And as we look at cities, downtowns, all over the country, they've all done something with their main street to make it a very pedestrian-friendly environment. And so we began to look at that right of way, which is quite wide, but especially if you're familiar with Polk Street, and I'm sure you are, there's a middle lane that is primarily used for beer trucks and delivery trucks. And we need to address those needs, but there's another way to do it other than illegally parking in the middle lane. And so we did some traffic counts and basically determined that we could potentially eliminate the middle lane and create wider sidewalks, which would allow for outdoor dining, for retail to expand out onto the street, and really just completely reconstruct that street to make it a great main street. And so we began working with the consultant Jacobs to look at those concepts, but also how do we pay for it, of course. That's the first question we get, how do we pay for this? And there's a program you might be familiar with called TIGER. It's federal stimulus funding called Transportation Investment Generating Economic Recovery, and started in 2009, and it's been allocated every year. This year, $500 million was allocated. It's a nationwide program. And it's really for alternative transportation programs, in other words, not building freeways or typical transportation modes, that stimulate economic development. And that really is kind of what we're looking at here. And so it seemed that that might be a funding source that we could utilize to reconstruct Polk Street and really give it a shot in the arm and help that move forward. A kicker with that program is that it has a project minimum of $12.4 million, which includes a 20% match. We didn't feel, just kind of looking at Polk Street, and we're looking at 3rd to 11th, that we could meet that minimum. We didn't think it would be that much. We were looking at between $8 and $10 million. And we also weren't sure that it would provide the connectivity to other transportation modes that's really needed to be competitive for this kind of project. So we began to look at 6th Avenue and the connection to Rails to Trails, which Rails to Trails ends at Crockett and 7th and just kind of dumps out onto 7th. And so we looked at how can we sort of continue that Rails to Trails connection into downtown and through downtown and connect to Polk Street. And so over the last year, we've been working on those design options with the intent of applying for TIGER funding. The TIGER funding was announced this year, earlier this year, and is due actually on June 5th. And so we've done a lot of that design work. Those are the visuals, but I'll just kind of to recap, basically, this involves the reconstruction of Polk Street from property line to property line, from 3rd to 11th, no middle lane, and a traffic lane in each direction, and keeping the on-street parking. The traffic counts have shown us that eliminating the middle lane will not significantly impact traffic flow, which is to say that we won't, and this includes future economic development out to 2025, that we won't see backups on any particular block beyond that block. So where cars are wanting to turn. It assumes we keep the existing conditions, although we are looking at the potential of turning some of the east-west streets back to two-way, which is what they were originally, which will only enhance circulation. And then the 6th Street part, what we're looking at is not reconstructing the street, but restriping the street to have one traffic lane in each direction. There's currently 2 westbound. And again, we did the traffic counts, including the turning counts, to show that we can remove one of those lanes, have 2 lanes, one in each direction, and dedicated bike lanes. If you've seen the green, solid green bike lanes in other cities, having one of those in each direction, which would connect to the Rails to Trails terminus. There's a bridge that goes from 7th to 6th, and utilizing that bridge, which used to be railroad right-of-way, now is city right-of-way. And so utilizing that bridge to get down to 6th if you're on a bicycle, and coming into downtown or out of downtown. Down 6th, That same treatment of, the bike lanes as well as streetscape, would include all new sidewalks, trees, lighting, which is really important, it's very dark on that roadway at night. All the way into 6 and over to, terminating in City Hall, in terms of 6, and then going through between City Hall and the ballpark, up Johnson Street and over to the Santa Fe Depot building. And remember, I talked about connectivity to other modes, so this would connect to, the rails to trails, of course, our commercial district, downtown, over to all the development that's occurring with the hotel and the ballpark and the, new garage, as well as Xcel Energy, and I'm sure other developments coming. And then ultimately over to the Santa Fe Depot, which the city now owns, and we envision as an intermodal center that could house the buses, Greyhound, Lucky, Amtrak, we'll see. And that becomes sort of a transportation mode for downtown. And so that's kind of a summary of the project. I do have a PDF, which I'd be happy to provide to you that you can look at in terms of visuals. And it's actually up on our website, downtownemerald.com. We do have the numbers, which I'm sure you're wanting to know how much. We've just finalized those numbers, but I don't want to get ahead of the city. We haven't actually presented that to the council yet, and we're presenting that today at 1:30 in work session, and then 3 p.m. In a public comment session. And we've had numerous actually public opportunities for public input over the past several months, and we had 2 public meetings last week specifically for this topic. So we feel this is something that will really help us bring Polk Street back, as well as 6th Avenue. In talking to Commissioner Murguia, she suggested possibly extending that out to the east, and I think that's a real possibility. Either in this, if we don't receive the funding on this go around, adding it to it, or if we do, adding it to a phase 2. It is certainly something we can extend. I think what we're looking at right now is connecting to existing facilities and making it as strong of an application as we can. And we'll be prepared to submit that by June 5th, which is next Friday. And if we don't get it, hopefully it'll come around again next year. One of the things that we know is that applicants tend to get funded, a higher frequency of funding, at least on the 2nd or even 3rd go round. And so we did see value in going ahead and getting this together and applying, but it doesn't mean that we can't make some modifications as we move forward if we don't get funded, or even if we do get funded, because we're just at 15% docs right
Excellent summary. I may have missed this, and if you would look back over it with me, by removing the center lane, which we're going to continue to have contract with Beersworth and the like, where they're going to offload.
Well, as I mentioned, right now they're parking illegally in the middle lane, but we're looking at side streets. A lot of them do park, for example, on 7th. And, you know, as you move forward with downtown development, you have to constantly look at that. It's not a one and done thing. So as development occurs and retail occurs and those needs happen in different locations, you have to look at that. So we'll be looking at loading zones. Right now, what we're looking at is 7th. And there are trucks that are parking there anyway, and you know, they're there for 5 minutes and they're gone. There's plenty of capacity on 7th, we know that. And so the ability to create a loading zone there that's say a 15-minute parking is certainly a possibility. I think what we're trying to balance is maximizing on-street parking. So you don't necessarily want a 24-hour-a-day loading zone. So how do we do that and maximize the parking? The capacity is there, it's just making sure we don't have a bunch of vacant space that people can't park in.
How were your public meetings? How did they go?
You know, we have publicized the heck out of this thing, and not just the meetings, but as we've gone through this process, we probably had a total of 20 people in the 2 meetings. And they went well. There were questions. There was one individual that basically questioned whether we should redevelop downtown at all. But other than that, there were positive comments and just a lot of questions.
Good. I've seen this on paper, and I like it. It looks really, really good. The biggest concern to people I've talked to is they think that we're gonna take away parking.
That's the last thing we wanna do. We're trying to maximize parking. In fact,
Yeah.
there's a lot of areas of downtown that are currently no parking. That's probably was that 20 years ago. Maybe there was some use there. And we bring that back, so we're doing the opposite.
Yeah, okay.
Do you have any input from the downtown businesses as to what might take place?
We've been talking, especially businesses on Polk, we have some more homework to do on the 6th. We have about 30 letters of support from business and property owners along the border. We do have more work to do on the 6th. We know fewer of those property owners, so we're trying to reach out and find them. Some of them are not local. And so there will definitely be, we'll continue that informal input process, but there'll be a formal process as this proceeds. This is a project that, should we get funded, that will go through TxDOT. And so there's a formal process that you have to follow to get input. But beyond that, we want to have, those one-on-one meetings and make sure that the property owners understand what's happening. As far as the 6th Street or 6th Avenue property owners, we hope they'll be happy. They're gonna get brand new sidewalks, trees, lighting, and the curb to curb is not really changing. I mean, we're not moving the curb lines. So hopefully they'll be happy. I think the biggest thing that we'll need to discuss with them are the drives. There are lots of drives that are no longer drives, and in the plans we eliminated them. So there's maybe a fence along the property line, and there's a drive that goes to nothing that was there maybe 20 years ago. So we'll continue those discussions.
One thing that you mentioned was 20% match. Is that the city is gonna match that, or who are you asking
Well, we hope,
that match from?
yes. That we've been updating, of course, we have a new council, partly new council. And so we don't know what's gonna happen, but we've been talking to the city about this for 9 months or so. And so they're aware of the project, and we've met with the new council members, and it's up to them over the next 2 Tuesdays. The higher the match, the better your ability to get funding, so we're hoping for a higher match than 20%, obviously.
I move that we support the resolution that with the city and the Tiger Grant project.
I second that. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Make that unanimous. Okay, number 7, local government corporations. Provide an update on local government corporation. Commissioner.
Just a couple of updates in terms of timeline that was presented at the last meeting. So as it relates to the downtown hotel, just some dates that I wanted to get on your radar. On the LGC level, we are expecting a working budget, final commitments, building permits, June 30th. Construction approximately September of 2015. And it was shared at the meeting that the Convention Bureau is now kind of selling into the hotel events June of 2017. So I wanted to give those tentative dates as they're being presented to the LGC. The RFQ, the request for qualifications for the MPEV, which has commonly been known as the ball field, that is out and open. There was a public or a working meeting held on May 21st. I asked for information to participate just as a public individual, because I'm not on that subcommittee, to understand what that RFQ process was like. I was notified an hour before the meeting of when the meeting was, so obviously I could not attend that. AEDC currently has the keys to Coca-Cola, and that transition is happening from downtown to the Central Port location. I'm going to give you that timeline. And we don't have anything new as it relates to Excel project, anything that's been shared on the timeline. So we're scheduled to meet in the next couple weeks, and as we have updates, I'll continue to bring those to the court.
Thank you. Number 8, Potter County projects. You have anything, Mike?
Just too bad.
Okay.
Good morning. Kind of bring you up to speed of where we stand right now. We have 14 health projects from the 2013 storm. 10 of them will be presented to you this morning for y'all to consider which direction you want to move forward with regarding the fairgrounds. The other 4, we have a pre-construction meeting this week in order to get those projects going. Fire Station 3 project, Park Hill Smith and Cooper, architectural firm, and Pat will be presenting a few items here in a moment to you. Just to make you aware, as we entered into this project and we continue to move along, you had the opinion of probable cost presented to you. And we've run into some issues that will be presented in a little while. The cost continues to go up, and we just want to make you aware of what they are, but please understand some of those in there are things that we wanted to look at in order to make the proper decision, which is the best way to go, to where we can continue to work on cost of this problem.
Thank you, sir. Number 9, Fire Station 3 project, your report from Park Hill Smith and Cooper Inc., engineering and architectural firm concerning the 75% construction documents and OPC to take any action necessary. Nicole? Yeah.
I brought somebody with me.
Okay, that's fine. That's
So-
fine. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, my name's Paul Harris, Park Hill Smith and Cooper. Just want to update you on fire station number 3. We did on schedule submit the 75% construction documents along with the updated opinion of cost on May 15th. And we are receiving comments from the fire department and facilities manager right now. And we are on track to continue with that project and then take the schedule of 100% CDs. It's on schedule.
Good.
We do have some comments, and you want to talk about the sprinkler
I can.
system currently?
Good morning.
Good morning.
One of the items for the building, normally this building would be sprinklered under the building codes. They would have sprinklers all throughout the building. When we initially started with this project, we said, we're not gonna put sprinklers in because of the cost. To sprinkle, putting in the sprinklers is not all that expensive. We are on a well out there, we do not have city water. Therefore, we'd have to put in a system to supply the water. If you've been to Gander Mountain, on the east side, northeast corner of their building, there's a large water tank, and inside the building, there's a series of pumps, and that's what it takes to do the sprinkler system. We have to store the water and then have the pumps to pump it for the, to supply water to sprinklers. We've said that all along. Last week, when we got down to this point, we talked to the insurance company, and we talked to a couple other places, and talked to Park Hill Smith and Cooper. So we went ahead, we've always said what we thought it would cost. So we went ahead and talked to them, and I want to bring it to y'all to decide if we want to try to go with this or not. They brought, the cost of it, total cost would be about $250,000 to put sprinklers in the building. The actual running the sprinkler system is about $26,000. There would be a pump system that would run about $50,000 and a 50,000 gallon above ground storage tank that would run $175,000. And this is similar to what we expected when we said all along we were not going to put sprinklers in the building.
That those figures that you just quoted, are those costed in your total construction cost?
No, sir.
That's not.
We have omitted this all along
Okay. So that's not.
because we knew the cost. We knew the cost and we've always felt that it was excessive for what's there. We talked to the insurance company about it, and they said, yes, they're gonna insure the building either way we go. I've kind of done a little discussion this morning. A normal business, anybody else that was building this building, the sprinkler system would affect their insurance rates, probably significantly. In the case of our insurance and discussing it, I don't believe it affects from what we can find out real quickly this morning, we don't think it really affects our insurance rates, whether we should put sprinklers in this building or not. The insurance company said that Richard, being the fire marshal for Potter County and this being a Potter County building, that Richard should not sign the letter that says we're not going to put sprinklers in the building, which is what Park Hill Smith and Cooper needs to be able to proceed on it. They said that we need to get another authority to do that. And so if we decide we're not going to put sprinklers in the building, then he will go to the city fire marshal and ask them to sign off on the fact that we're not going to put sprinklers in the building.
Do any of our other fire stations have sprinklers?
No, sir. I don't believe there's sprinklers I believe just the only buildings that have sprinklers are the ones that are inside the city where you're required to. And the cost, if we had city water for $25,000, I don't think there's any question about whether we put sprinklers in the building. I think, we all think sprinklers are a very good idea, but it's the other $225,000 or more that's the problem.
So because this is a new facility, is that, as far as insurance rates, does that, have any bearing at all?
No, not with the large property schedule we have currently. A building is not gonna be, it's not gonna be a big factor in determining rates. My biggest concern was that the code requires a sprinkler system, and so to get a variance, I felt like it would need to come from an authority other than Potter County. Authority felt like that was too close to some considerable criticism for a Potter County fire marshal to apply a code variance to a Potter County building. I just thought it'd be prudent to get a variance from some other.
But this court could do that.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Dave and David, what are your thoughts?
I don't think, if I were a city fire marshal, I wouldn't give a variance because it's outside my jurisdiction, so, but I don't know, if he's willing, or she, if he's willing to do that, then I would certainly, I think that's a good thing to do. I'm just wondering about the, about whether they're gonna actually agree to do that.
I'm not, back to your comment, I'm not, it's inside the,
Is it inside each? Oh, okay, okay.
It is, it's
That's
kind of a
probably
questionable thing whether they've got authority or not, so.
Well, I think on the safety thing, they probably do, it's in the ETJ, so, and then that's okay, I think that'd be fine.
Investing with code officials when we first started this project. Paul and I was discussing this while ago, it'd be good to go back to the, visited with Scott McDonald's office, and basically they stated we're within ETJ, but we're not tying on to city utilities, so they're not reviewing the project. They would if we wanted them to, but we're saving the money since they're not reviewing the project. So that's why we proceeded in the direction to which we have. Now this issue's come up because of Parkhill, Smith and Cooper's concern on order to proceed for it, because we want to build a building no matter what per code.
Dave, do you have any concerns?
I don't think so. I mean, with our property insurance deductible being $75,000, I mean, that, as long as it's insured, I mean, at least we have that protection. If it's not sprinkled and they'll cover any damage, that I think it would be fine to proceed without it. Without it, I mean, if the insurance company's still gonna cover it if it burns down and there's no sprinklers, I think we're okay, but if that caused some kind of turbulence in that process, it might not be.
Pat, what is the amount of equipment that we'll have in there, dollar-wise? I mean, I'm thinking of some of our trucks, 350,000, $500,000. Just our assets that we would have.
The truck that we currently have on order, which is $400,000, will be there.
Isn't there four or five?
There's five bays.
5 bays.
And for certain right now, the equipment that will be there, there's currently a rescue there that's about $100,000. The new engine will be there, that's about $400,000. The pumper that's there, that pumper is about $200,000, but it will be replaced, and our reserve engine will be there. So, close to $1 million. And the amount of equipment, and will we use the fifth bay for equipment? We know that, we're just, I can't say absolutely what's gonna be there now.
But you indicate the pumper's gonna be replaced as well, right?
That pumper will be, I know it's on the cycle to be replaced, I don't believe it's on the next. It's not up real quick, but it's definitely in the cycle, it will be replaced with a more expensive apparatus.
So we're probably looking at over $1 million.
Oh, well over,
Well,
closer to two to three.
Plus equipment that's in the building, Sprinklers are a very good thing to have. They are there, sprinklers don't go off like you see in Hollywood movies. You set a trash can on fire over here and the whole building doesn't get, the whole sprinklers don't go off in the whole building. If you set a trash can on fire right here, that sprinkler would go off. And it would suppress the fire there and hold it until, and set alarms until the fire department gets here to control the whole situation.
And they're made to save lives. That's the main purpose for the fire.
But that equipment is also covered by the insurance, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then the dollar amounts that you presented, roughly it's over $500,000, if I was adding correctly. You mentioned 250, 26,
Oh,
50, 50,
No,
175.
the total estimate that we have right now, and Park Hill Smith and Cooper worked this up for us last week, is 250,000 total. It's 250,000 total, and I just read the components.
Oh, okay, I heard that
Yes.
incorrectly. Thank you for that clarification. Well, I would just add one quick comment and then I'll be quiet here on my end. Obviously, I have concerns with the whole project and exceeding budget, and I'll just save that for another day. But if we're putting anything in terms of this dollar amount into any building, anything to protect it, I would support, even if it is $250,000. Because of the sheer amount of the cost of this building. It's kind of crazy, for lack of a better word, that we would build something like that and not be aggressive to protect it. That's not.
To be short and sweet and to the point, I echo those sentiments.
Well,
At least the latter half.
Well, I'm gonna ask probably the dumbest question in the world, but you're a fire department, can you put out your own fires?
Yes, ma'am. But the problem is
It's like the sheriff's office having you have an alarm system in your office? It just seems odd to me that it would buy insurance.
The problem is the fact that the building's not occupied 24 hours a day, 7 days.
I get that, yeah.
All the
It's
buildings.
cheaper to hire someone to stay there.
Yes, ma'am, it would be. I like that solution.
Okay, so do we insure it or do we not? That's the question. Do we sprinkler it, I mean?
I think we almost just, just for liability and issues, we just gonna have to.
Got kind of mixed emotions about spending $250,000, and I'm real surprised at you.
I know. Well, if you're gonna build something that's gonna probably be $2.5 million when it's done.
And I look at, there's, how many other fire stations we got out there?
This will be 1 of 6.
Okay, we got 5 that don't have sprinkler systems, we all of them don't have it, so if that's your concern, why wouldn't you want to sprinkle all of them?
This one is very grand in scale, according to the schematics I've seen. So that's where I'm coming from. But I appreciate that I can surprise you still.
None of the comment about the rest of the stations. As far as the rest of the stations, we haven't done anything. We did do a remodel on Station 6, and it actually wasn't discussed, I don't believe, when we started talking about Station 6. And it would have introduced code into that building and some other problems. The other buildings have been built, many of them in the 70s and the 60s. And code hasn't been a problem. We're now following the codes.
I'm not unopposed to sprinkling this building. If it's the wish of this commission, no problem. If they don't want to sprinkle it, I don't have any issue with that either.
I was just gonna say that, I understand the concern about cost of the building and all the equipment you're gonna have there. But if they're both insured, I just don't know that we need to go this extra expense, so. I'm going to move that we not install a sprinkler fire suppression system in Fire Station 3.
Can we have a motion by Commissioner Church? Do I have a second? I'll second it. Motion and second. All in favor of not sprinkling with the new fire department, raise your right hand. All opposed? Okay, 32.
Thank you.
Number 10, elections to consider and approve the proposal for the Secretary of State to accept White County and the countywide polling place program vote centers beginning November 2015, per section 43.007. Good morning, Helen.
Good morning.
How are you?
I am well. We've made it through public hearing. We've done all of our little steps. There's 3 binders between you guys up there. The first part of it is everything that we are required to submit per the Secretary of State. Just basically answering their questions, proving that we have the infrastructure to be able to do this. Then all the things that are behind the blue pages are basically the support for everything in front. So, do you guys have any questions? It's the same proposal you guys saw.
I just want to commend you one more time for such a fine job. This was hard, and you did excellent. You and the committee did a
Yeah,
really
I had a lot of
good
help.
job.
Yes.
Thank you.
Just the question I have is, when will it be submitted to the Secretary of State? When is it officially en route?
This week.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, I don't believe there's any changes in there other than adding that you guys approve it, because I'm believing you're going to. And, provided that you do, if there's any changes you want in there, that would be the other thing I would be willing to listen to.
I just suppose that we're not accepted, any changes?
If we're not accepted, it would be because there are people in front of us, which I don't think I don't think there'll be 6. The state legislature had the opportunity to open it up and remove that requirement of no more than 6, but they did not do that this legislative session. But we would either get in line for the next time, or if there is a problem that they see in it, then we would correct that and resubmit.
Judge, I would move that we approve the sending of our Otter County proposal to the Secretary of State to be accepted into the vote center program.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank
Is there
you.
something I'm supposed to sign on this, or we should?
You know what, I will create something for you to sign at the front.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, number 11, contract with Childress County Overflow Inmate Housing to approve an amendment to the agreement with the Childress County Sheriff to house White County prisoners. Dave, Sheriff.
We received a letter from Childress County that they have met their commissioner's court on April of this year, and they're gonna raise their rates. Currently, we're paying $35 per inmate when we transfer them down there. The new rate will be $40, and the effective date will be October 1st. Just want to let you know about that. The contract that we have a copy of it, has been the same one since, July 10th. We'll just continue with that contract. I know that when we did that before, when we started looking at that, I think the next closest jail that was off that housing was like $58. They're still even cheaper than what we could find. I don't know if that's changed, but it's just the cost of housing inmates and building that kind of stuff that are going up. So.
Yeah, anything ever been discussed maybe with Randall County? Do they have the extra space that?
I don't know that they have the space, but I know know what they charge the city is pretty. I think they're charging $68, and even for outside.
Maybe we could work out some kind of deal with them.
County.
Yeah.
They also use a lot of their space for federal inmates as well.
Federal employees, inmates, whatever.
Well, yeah.
Same thing sometimes.
So what's the difference?
I know they have 78 beds or 75 beds or something that are reserved for the city. So I don't know that they have the space.
City use that many beds?
They pay for them whether they use them.
I'd like maybe to investigate the possibility of sharing with the city and with us, maybe we get a better rate. Sure would be a lot, closer.
And especially since this won't take into effect until October 1, so it'll be the new fiscal year, and we'll have that information at budget.
Could you check on that and, just to find out whether or not that's a possibility? Thank you.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve this? Yes? Yes. Do you want to wait?
Prior to, we need to make this, the see whether Randall, able to.
Well, how soon do you have to have this, Sheriff?
I mean, I don't October, I guess.
Okay, why don't you?
I'll bring it back next.
Yeah, represent it in, July, September, something like that.
Okay, we'll bring that back up then. Okay, number 12, Memorial Highway American Fallen Warrior Memorial Foundation to receive a request to support a proposal to rename State Highway Loop 335 to honor veterans. This is a letter that I received. I gave it to Dave because that's what I do. And,
We put it on the agenda just so y'all can think about it. I didn't even prepare a resolution, I didn't know if you wanted to talk with the, I mean, it seems to me it's something that ought to be coordinated among the various governmental bodies that have control over that highway, in other words, Randall, Potter, and the city of Bidwell.
yeah.
So it seems, in my view, it's a little early, but since we've gotten a request, I put it on just for your consideration, and you can go with it wherever you want to go with it.
Do we even have the authority, even with those other entities, without text dot?
Yeah, no, we basically, you submit a request to text stop. So it seems that I expect text stop to say, what do you guys?
so we could do this without the city or the other county approving it, just do it to see what happens in the day.
I think so, it's, you know, that would mean you'd have a part of it, whatever part of 335 was outside the city limits of the city and in Potter County which seems to be kind of silly to me, but that's just my own.
But I also heard in that comment, Dave, that it may be premature, that we need to do some homework and coordinate with the other entities.
I would say that'd
Before we just
be
print it
my
up.
suggestion. I think that'd be y'all's prudent.
So do we need to write a letter to Jack Barnes and ask him if he's talked to the city in Randall County on this, or call him and make a phone call, or?
Something
Okay.
like that, yeah, some kind of, yeah.
All right, so we'll pass that too till the next time. Okay, number 13, temporary office space to consider and act upon allowing information technology to utilize vacant office space at the sanitary building. Jason.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
Happy Tuesdays. We have what I think is a good problem. We've got an overflow of talent, in the IT department. What we've got is a situation that's come up. We've got our new girls coming on board. Next Monday will be our first day. Chelsea Green is starting with us. We're gonna have a situation where we've got two software developers who kind of need a very quiet space. Think of them as, folks on CSI doing DNA tests, you know, doing really important secret stuff, whatever. Those two people are sharing office space with a help desk employee or help desk phone we'll call it. And this is a temporary quandary that we're in until we've got retirement that's coming up in our department in the near future. And once that retirement comes to reality, then we can reshuffle people around, because we're not gonna refill that position. And so what I did, I called Mike in because I didn't know who to call, and said, okay, you're the facilities guy, tell me how I do this. And he said he talked to you guys. He gave me a couple of options there in the Santa Fe building. One is on the 4th floor, which is an office space that's way too big for what we need. Then there's the 12th floor, which there's a couple of, the two smallest offices are on the 12th floor. And with your blessing, I'd like to move a couple of developers up there so the retirement happens.
Is there any cost associated with the move?
No, the infrastructure already in place, cabling, equipment, all that sort of thing. It's just take a half a day and we schlep our stuff up there.
I heard that. We need to approve. Is there a particular spot there that has been designated?
I looked at a couple of, I've got the suite numbers to get back, a couple of the smallest offices that are on the 12th floor.
Are they the northeast or southeast?
They are the southeast, 1202 and 1203, and there's no water damage.
Mike, you have no concern with those locations?
Make a motion to approve the move. Now, how long will this be? Will this be temporary or is it?
Temporary till
Until retirement.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Kelly, a second by Commissioner Vaughn. All in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you, Jason. Number 14, Tri-State Fairgrounds, property insurance coverage. To hear a report on the status of property insurance claims on certain buildings on the fairgrounds and to take any action necessary.
Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning.
I created a little write-up of the situation that we have, as well as included the latest engineer report that came as a result of a study that TAC1 had done to look at the 10 buildings that are in question. I put a little timeline of kind of some of the major events that have happened since the claim and now, and really I won't go over all those, but the last few that have happened, back in October, you as a court had asked Mike and me to reopen the claim with TAC and have them come look at those buildings and possibly do full replacements on those roofs. And as a result of that action is when this engineer was hired by TAC and the Tri-State. They're splitting that cost. And that report did just come out on May 12th. That's whenever we received it. So you have the report in front of you. I did refer you to kind of the high level summary of what they found. And what they found is all the damage was actually cosmetic. They didn't see any functional damage as a result of the storm. And actually, of those 10 buildings, only 6 had cosmetic damage on the roofs themselves, and that was the metal structures. The built-up gravel roofs, they didn't find any damage as a result of the hailstorm. So that kind of puts us at the crossroads of how you want to proceed as a court. TAC did have some questions that need to be answered going forward, and there's a lot smarter people than me here to talk about insurance. I know Steve's here, and I think TAC has a representative as well as some of the fairgrounds people are here too. So as I understand it, our policy does not have a cosmetic waiver, meaning that we can ask for full replacement of cosmetic damage on those buildings. So that would kind of be an option of you as a court, and like I said, Steve and maybe some of them can talk to that a little more. So really, for me, I would want to see the action of answering these 2 questions in the next step section. Those are the questions that need to be answered of TAC to proceed forward. So.
Okay. Does anybody want to speak to this?
Good morning, Court. My name is Kevin Yandel. I am the property claims examiner with the Texas Association of Counties, and I represent the Texas Association of Counties Risk Management Pool. First of all, for the record, we are not an insurance company, and I want to make sure that that's absolutely clear. We are a risk pool into which the members of the pool contribute public funds for the purposes of spreading out the risk among all counties that are members, and then we pay for property damage from that pool. Okay, so my job, very much like yours, is to protect the taxpayer money that is paid into that fund. Okay? In brief, the buildings in question are specifically the buildings out at the fairgrounds. As Mr. Harding pointed out, these buildings have now been inspected by an adjuster, by 2 building consultants, by 2 engineers, and numerous other folks. They found a number of findings up there. To separate the buildings with metal roofs from those with the built-up roofs. As Mr. Harder pointed out, the built-up roofs, there was no hail damage observed on those roofs. Just to clarify a little bit, the buildings that have the metal roofs, some of them do have fiberglass skylights, and that would be considered functional damage that's included in the claim. Okay, so the functional damage that's been found absolutely is part of the claim. The damage that we are questioning is, or really what we're questioning is whether Potter County would like to move forward with full replacement of all of the metal roofs that are in question out at the fairgrounds. The findings up there, there's some new damage, there's some old damage, there's, it appears to be years of repair. Different repair steps have been taken in the past. And I cannot recommend replacing these roofs. And neither can the consultants on which I rely. But ultimately that question is up to you. The damage that's related to the hailstorm of May 2013 is cosmetic in nature, which means basically it does not affect the functionality of the roof. The roof still functions just fine. It sheds water. The hail damage did not cause any additional leaks to these roofs, of course, except the skylights. So that's where we're at. Really, the big question is whether the county would like to move forward with fixing this cosmetic damage on these roofs. The difference in the cost of the claim or the money that would come out of the pool. Right now, we're looking at about $20,000 to fix the most apparent and the obvious and the functional damage. To replace all the roofs with cosmetic damage would be about $1.3 million.
How do you repair a metal roof? Just out of curiosity, how do you fix them?
That's part of the issue. You can repair leaking seams, okay? You can repair the leaking skylights. You can repair leaking screws that are up there. You can put patches in some areas. You can even come back, one of the solutions that we proposed in the beginning is to come back and put a coating over the entire roof, okay? That does not fix the cosmetic damage that's up there though. The only way to fix that is to take the metal off and replace it.
What does this coating cost?
The coating, I'm going to defer to my adjuster, see if he has a rough figure. Shay?
It's about $2 a square foot.
$2 a square foot, so depending on how many buildings we're looking at doing this to. Originally, I think we proposed coating the Rex Baxter building was the one that seemed to be in the most disrepair, that had the greatest potential for some leaks from any potential hail damage that is potentially overlooked.
So at $20,000 cover the cost of coating?
$20,000.
And that's more or less more interesting as far as functional damage than cosmetic coating.
Correct. The $20,000 that I referenced, with any hailstorm, you're going to have cosmetic damage. You're going to have, there's some softer metals up there, the gutters, for example, vents, things like that. Those will be the first metal objects up there to damage, to dent, but they are still functional. Okay. What the $20,000 was that I referenced was some of the damage that the public may see from the ground. For example, a lot of the trim work where the cosmetic damage is more noticeable from the ground. That's kind of where we're at right now, where we drew that line between what we are comfortable spending and what we're going to rely on the court to move forward on this claim.
And Mr. Nadell and David, I have a question as it relates to the claim first go round and the dollars that we received. If I remember right, we have dollars that we've already received for those claims. Does that include, that includes only the coating for Rex Baxter?
Yes, I believe so. There was some metal replacement too. There's a breezeway somewhere in that. It was a small metal replacement for that. And I believe that was about it. I mean, there was the gutters around and some of the vents that were included in that original proposal, but yes, we already do have some dollars.
Okay, and then as it relates to the functional that you mentioned, the 20 grand, and I won't hold you to that, I know that's kind of a loose number, but the 20,000, based on your assessment, that's the additional that you're saying we didn't see the first go around in that first claim, so we see potentially 20,000 more to replace XYZ.
I'm gonna say no, ma'am.
Okay.
The 20,000 has already been included in the claim.
Included, okay.
It's already, it's all one claim, and we considered that from the very beginning, so it was included in the payments that have been issued today.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
What was not considered initially was full replacement of all the metal roofs because of the cosmetic damage.
And you indicated that you can't recommend that on behalf of TAC because it's cosmetic in nature, is that correct?
Okay, so what does the other side say?
Other side? Is there another side?
Good morning, my name is Larry McAllister with Crenshaw Consulting and Engineering. We were hired by Tri-State Fairgrounds to go out and do an assessment of any hail damages that may or may not have occurred May 28, 2013. And looking at the roofs, I know that there were 4 other metal buildings on the premises that were already replaced. The Amarillo National Center is right now in the process of full roof replacement, including all of its metal components and metal buildings. The cosmetic damage versus functional damage is, something that's interpreted. We see numerous buildings out there that have been hit by hail that have already been replaced, slated for replacement. A coating does not satisfy the problem. A coating is a maintenance problem. In 5, maybe 10 years, you're going to be looking at recoating the roofs. The overall functionality of the roof, it will shed, excuse me, I'm a little caught up. It will shed water, but ultimately, if I was to do a pre-purchase survey on this property and I had to assess the damages that were done to it, this would be something that I personally would include in it as far as true damage and true financial cost.
So again, it's the interpretation by cosmetic versus functional. Right, it's ground zero again.
Well, and that's the next steps that David has included in item 1 and 2 for direction.
And one other thing to consider is what does the policy cover? I can't address that, but if the policy covers cosmetic damage or it doesn't have a cosmetic waiver, then it's implied that you pay premiums for that coverage. So, I just want to make sure that if we move forward and, either replacing them or not replacing them, we really don't have a dog in the fight except to say our assessment stands on its own. We have pictures of every roof out there being affected. The fact that all other metal buildings on the premises have been replaced under other carriers, that has, some credibility to it. When you look at the Amarillo National Center that's being replaced in its entirety, still on the same property.
What other buildings have had their roofs?
The Amarillo National Center, and I'd have to ask Virgil in specific, the other 4 buildings, but they've all had a retrofit system where they replaced the metal over the top. Virgil, what buildings were those?
It's the Glen Mac and covered cattle pens, Hunting Grand Arena, and the Bank Street Livestock Building.
So those have been replaced in their entirety. What was interesting about the initial report that I saw from Hague Engineering is it said that all the damages were consistent, but yet it included one of the buildings that had already been hailed off in its report. So the same damages that were seen by one carrier were replaced again by the not insurance company, but a general fund. Those would have to be assessed, and again, that's a little bit out of money.
And from my recollection, the gray area, if you will, from the different parties is really why we as a court move towards a neutral individual, and that being TAC, to come back and assess and bring back those findings. So I would agree with some of the gray area that you're speaking to. And I think we walked through that, and that was part of the neutrality of what we were hoping to bring to the discussion.
And the neutral party was Renfus Engineering, the latest report that you received. Renfus came out, did a report, noted that there are cosmetic damages. Nonetheless, damages are damages. That depends on how, how your policy reads and how they're interpreted, and whether there's a variance for that. If there's, an exclusion in there that says you don't do this, then yes, but on the other hand, if there's not an exclusion, then it's perceived that you were paying coverages for those items and the rest lost value.
Steve, can you tell us what the risk to the county is of our insurance going up if we replace or repair any of these buildings or all of them?
Well, I know the insurance renewal is July 1st. It's coming up pretty quick. I've received the numbers and they're very good. They're very good. So, there is no big increase this year. And, as far as future periods, I think the overall experience of the pool itself would dictate more the rates that the county is going to experience, more so than the individual claim. We already have, a very large claim that the pool is paid for Potter County. I know we're in a very good position for the next, until July 1st, 2016.
So hypothetically, from your experience, looking beyond this current year, in 2016, depending on which way we go, how would that affect our, what do you see, what looking at pools already?
Well, from my experience, just the May 2013 hailstorm, the 2013 renewal, the 2014 renewal, the 2015 renewal, all should have gone up substantially with substantial increase in wind hail deductible, and it did not. So we're already very much contrary to the normal experience with other insurance companies. To say what it'll do in 2016, normal experience would say it would go up considerably, but that has not been the experience in the past 3 years, and that's after we received, after we knew that there was going to be a multi-million-dollar claim on the experience of Potter County. So really to say what TAC will do in 2016 really probably depends more on the overall experience of the pool in Texas than it does, what we do here with this particular.
I'm still confused as to who's going to pay what. I understand that if we just repair, that our insurance will probably cover most of that. If we replace, who's going to pay for that?
The risk pool, that'd be part of your claim. The risk pool will pay for that.
100%?
Unless you're deductible.
Okay.
And then next Thursday, the waters, as far as the risk pool throughout the state for the ensuing years coming up.
Yeah, that would be part of the experience of the risk pool overall. We'd take another $1 million or so out of the risk pool.
Am I right that both Dallas County and Harris County are not in the risk pool because of the risk that they give that pool? Is that right?
I believe you are correct. They're not members of the pool. I can't speak to exactly why. I know a lot of the larger counties are self-insured for numerous.
Do we ever have that chance of getting kicked out?
I can't speak to that.
So basically, we have enough money that insurance will pay for the damage done and for not replacing, but for fixing. For cosmetic.
Repair.
Okay.
And that's the claim that we already have, and we already have the dollars, I think, in our possession.
And that's been the recommendation of two different engineering, is that right?
As far
To
as
repair.
One says repair, one says replace.
Well, I don't think the engineers have ruled on what you do, they've just ruled on the damage. And I think they've all agreed there's damage. It's just what you wanna do with that damage, I think that's real.
Once this issue is settled, is Tri-State Fair gonna take their own, are we gonna, let them do their own insurance? Is that the,
That was the
plan?
premise initially behind that, so this is, dust is settled, I think, Tri-State Fair will settle their insurance. Possibility.
Well, another question I have is if these roofs are not replaced, what is the future for them? I mean, how can we anticipate whether or not we're going to go back and have issues in the future if we don't replace these roofs? That is my concern. It won't be after we settle this thing, but right now it is.
That's an argument point that we've been anguishing over for quite some time. You're absolutely right.
So you're the construction man, can you give us some input as to what would happen possibly in the future if we don't replace these roofs?
Oftentimes, we're hired as an engineering group to go out and date damages. If an insurance company was to take over coverage in 2016, then any other subsequent storms to that, I would go out and look and I would date this damage to where it is, plus it's discoverable with all of the reports that have been put out. In any case, there's damaged property. There's real value to that. If a policy was in place to cover those, in my experience, they're covered and they're paid for just so the egg doesn't get scrambled. Oftentimes we spend hours and hours and hours researching storm data, trying to understand what storm caused what damage and who's liable. At this point, we know what storm caused what damage. We know that there's damages subject tested. And now, to me, the question is whether the policy either covers or doesn't cover that. And then they would know what type of construction.
One other question I have is, can you rate these buildings according to the damage from the most severe to the less severe?
Well, moderate to severe hail is from 3/4 to 1 inch.
I'm talking about the actual building. Right now, those buildings, there's probably more buildings that need maybe replacement than others out there. And that's kind of what I was trying to figure out, what would be the most prominent building that need to be replaced?
I would say that, in my opinion, the Cody building. The Cody building has tremendous amount of damage, and it has other issues as well. There's been failed attempts at trying to put elastomeric or coating over it in the past. In my opinion, coatings don't work on metal. They don't last.
So when you say we're putting Band-Aids over,
You're putting Band-Aids over Band-Aids. A coating, I've never designed or recommended a coating in my entire career for a metal roof. The only idea for coatings is for reflectivity, or if you're trying to get some solar reflectivity index for energy credits. As far as this is it's a moot point. Putting a coating on this roof doesn't help it. It actually becomes a maintenance issue at this point in time. The roof is functional. There are some areas of the roof that aren't functional. Functional damage is basically a disengaged lath, a disengaged fascia or rupture. Not to say it's problematic throughout, but on the Cody building, page 5 of my report, there were some documentation of functional damage, disengaged laths to cabinet. So in the future, I think the liability would be whoever takes coverage of this, if it was to hail again, they would say, look, you've already had a damaged roof, and there might be some question.
we make it sound like a different line too.
One thing that I would add, Commissioner Kelly, because I think you're struggling with the longevity of the buildings, whatever our decision is, and I think that's a fair question. I personally struggle with, should that burden fall on the taxpayers to carry that? And I think that's really the root of the question. These are our local taxpayers paying for the repairs, and is that an appropriate decision, one way or the other?
Well, taxpayers are using those buildings quite a bit too. It's not private property. I mean, taxpayers are out there all the time for different events.
And usually they have to pay a fee to get in.
True too. It's true too.
But I understand what you're saying. I think that's a really good point.
If I can make a recommendation to the court for discussion with the Tri-State Fair and TAC, is to go through and replace the Cody and Baxter roofs due to the cosmetic, 100% replacement, get that issue over with, get it out of the way, with the following consideration that beneath the Cody building, from if there are any other additional structural damage, that the fair work with the county and split that cost on replacing the structure to support the roof. And after this issue, and the county does not repair or replace any of the other roofs out there, allow the Tri-State Fair to assume that responsibility. And get to the point where one of the discussions was some time ago that they start providing their own insurance.
Well, that was my concern, when I made a comment about rating these buildings, what needed the roofs and, in that order. And maybe you have come up with a solution here.
Those are your two worst structures.
So that's the Cody and
Red Baxter.
Virgil, we hadn't heard from you this morning. Can you come up here and talk with us?
I would totally agree with what Mr. Head said, that the two buildings that are in most need of total replacement are the Rex Baxter and the Cody. I would say that the long-range planning committee has discussed the thought of demoing the north restroom, so that would be one building that went away. Also, based on what just decided here today, we have another plan in the long range to remodel the south restroom, so there's no issue with that roof. The only other thing that I would bring up, with the exception of the other buildings, is the food court. There is a lot of cosmetic damage there, and as you stated, there's a lot of people that utilize that building throughout the fair. It's a 3-year-old building. It's one that we'd like to have nice and presentable for those people. We spent $500,000 building that building. And I'd like to just say in the end, I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but about 2 years ago, we asked this court to come out and look at the thought and the idea of taking over the insurance for the entire property, all the new buildings, the AMC, and those outbuildings that were built by the venue board. We were going through discussion at that time, and it was brought up by y'all that we didn't think you could take that over because the insurance at that time was not going to bring that building up to your standards to bring it for you to insure. I think we need to flip that question just a little bit, because now you're asking, or maybe you're asking not to replace the building that you own, that you built. Flip side of that, you were requiring us to do that with the other side. So I'd like you to take that into consideration, because all we're asking to do is the same thing that you were asking us to do if you're going to go in and insure the whole property or all the other buildings. Here again, those buildings are your buildings, and those buildings are utilized by lots of people throughout the year. And we bring a lot of money to Potter County with the city of Amarillo. In order to continue to do that, we're gonna have those buildings replaced, or the roofs replaced. Cody's a 3-year-old building. You might look and say, well, the reason that there's some structural damage in there is you haven't maintained it from water leakage. That's not what's causing that. It's humidity from wild horses being in there throughout all these 40 years, something that you can't foresee. So here again, I'm pleased with Mike's suggestion. I think it's all fine and good. I think the officers would agree that on the Kimmel buildings and the building down there that y'all gave us, the old sheriff's building. Yes, there's some damage there, primarily cosmetic. The Kimball's the same way, but I would ask above and beyond what Mr. Head's asking, would be thinking about the food court as well.
Let's talk dollars now. If this were to come to pass and we would agree with this, what are we looking at money wise?
The estimates that I have for a full replacement of the Rex Baxter roof, $335,000. For the Cody building, $425,000. And if the court were to consider the food court, $165,000.
That's some cosmetic, right, not, total replacement.
That is full replacement of those roofs due to cosmetic damage.
And just to make sure that I'm understanding, Mr. Gendel, your recommendation is not replacement on any of the buildings, even if it relates to Cody and Rex Baxter, that it is cosmetic damage?
That's
As in relation to this health store?
correct. From a claims perspective, and the damage that was caused by the 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch hailstones, I cannot recommend on behalf of the pool to replace these roofs.
Okay, thank you. That's roughly $1 million, close to $1 million, the dollars.
$925.
David, just a follow-up question, as it relates to our other claims in the hailstorm, what was the total claim amount for the county?
If I remember, it was close to 1.2 million is about what it's heard.
I figured 1.3.
So if we decided to move in this direction, we would essentially be doubling our claim? Okay.
And that is about right, because we replaced about 10 of our own buildings for that 1.3, so it is about comparable to 10 buildings out there.
So Virgil, you're okay with replacing, total replacement of the roofs on the Rex Baxter and Kirby, right?
That's right.
And you would like to see us do the food court? But you didn't include that in your proposal?
And TAC is not recommending any of them, just to be clear, all options on the table.
Can I ask a question to Dak? Why would you pay or recommend that you replace a breezeway that is attached to the Cody, total replacement of that, and not the Cody roof?
I'd have to defer to the findings of my adjusters, but my understanding is that the metal for that breezeway is a thinner metal than the other two buildings for the Cody buildings.
It's all 26 gauge.
I'm deferring to my adjusters.
So do we have a different interpretation on what's actually out there?
Yeah, I know it's out there, it's it's NDCI, 26 gauge.
So did you build that?
26 gauge, no, we did the research to match it to the ARC center, which we're doing right now.
So you have worked with a fair amount.
We'll work with the current.
And Virgil, the other thing that I would say is what you're referencing, which is replace the breezeway, not the other buildings. That was the position of the adjuster when he first went out there and took a look at it. I think the engineer, the two engineers that have looked at it, they had some different findings.
So what are we looking at as far as the difference between repair and replace?
In my opinion, there's no repair for our roof. if it's dented, it's damaged.
And from tax perspective, is there repair options?
Again, it depends on what you're trying to repair. If there are leaks, those leaks can be stopped. So the roof can be repaired by stopping those leaks. If you're looking at the cosmetic damage, there's no repair for cosmetic damage.
And I'm specifically speaking to the Cody and the Rex Baxter that have been part of the initial recommendations, repair options on that. Was any of that included in the original claim? And I'm kind of feeling like that coating may have been on one of them. Was that the Cody building? On the Rex Baxter, that was the repair on the Rex Baxter, was the coating.
That was a repair, one possible solution, given the condition of the roof and the previous, the hail damage that predated this storm and the previous repair attempts on that roof.
And that was included in the dollars that we received, was on that Cody.
Yes.
Or I'm sorry, on the Rex Baxter.
Yes, ma'am.
Was anything included on the Cody repair options?
I would say.
Skylights.
Just
Skylights, so that is a repair of the roof. It's a replacement of those skylights. And I'm sure there was some soft metal. I don't know if there are any gutters on that building. I'd have to look at the reports, but if there are any vents, ridge caps generally is a softer metal. It will dent faster, or with smaller hail. And I believe items like that were included in the initial figures.
Georgia brought up that the county has built some of those buildings. Which ones do the county?
They built everything out there with the exception of the Amarillo National Center. And the food court was built by the fairgrounds, which once it's built at Jaws. But the buildings that are attached to the AMC, Glen Mac, and the outdoor cattle pens, DR and Tommy Grant were all built by them. They're all insured as well. And here again, that's something that Larry brought up. You've got all those buildings there that they've already been re-roofed by the venue insurance company.
They were built a long time before I was part of this community, I guess. So there was taxpayer money used to build those facilities. Not the venue.
Not the venue. The Cody and the Baxter.
Cody and the Baxter.
Yeah. All that was built by the county.
And Virgil, I have one last question, and just to make sure I heard you correctly. So also a discussion point has been Tri-State taking over the buildings to insure them in the future. And you've not indicated that that is currently the interest of Tri-State, is to take over that property, whatever decision is made today.
That was the discussion our roofing committee came up with.
Yes.
5 or 6 months ago, and my point to you is just like the point that y'all gave us when we were looking, the county taking over the Amarillo National Center and those buildings. Y'all didn't feel like you could take it over until it was brought up to certain specs.
You want a clean handout first.
And now you're asking us to take the insurance over once we decide what we're gonna do. We put Band-Aids and stuff on there, how are we gonna get insurance? Because nobody's gonna take us. Just like what y'all were telling us with the Amarillo National Center. Remember, they were gonna put a elastomeric coating on that, and y'all said, no, we're gonna upgrade. It was like $800,000 to put another layer on. So I'm just asking the same question that you asked us to do, is what we're asking y'all to do. That's what we've done.
And I just wanted to make sure that I was clear so that the court is aware. It doesn't appear to me, I mean, I think that's fair. I don't want to dismiss that at all. I think you have a very fair comment. But whatever direction you move, I'm not hearing clear indication that they're taking over the property today, based on that. I just want to make sure everybody knows what's on the table.
Depending on what we do, depending on whether you're ready to take over.
No, I've heard they're not ready regardless, because the other property, I mean, not even these two. Part of the discussion is Cody and Rex Baxter, but you're indicating concern on even other buildings. Is that right?
Our discussion was that we would take over, once all this stuff was fixed and replaced, that we would take over the rest of the insurance on the fairgrounds, that being the Potter County Park.
In its entirety?
So if we approve this today to repair, not to repair, replace these two buildings, you'll take over the insurance on them?
Not all of them, not just those two.
That's what they say.
Okay.
Just that you're not saying you'll take over insurance on all the other buildings. I just wanna make sure that
Fletcher,
we're
is that not
clear.
what we discussed, that we would take over all the buildings?
Yes.
We're taking over everything that's owned by y'all.
Yeah, that's owned by us.
If the replacement is done in its entirety.
Well, we're only $300,000 away from that. Look at these two, all these, three issues here. The total is 1.3, right? This is 900 and something thousand. So we're about, what, 400,000 away from total replacement. Is that, am I not?
That's taxes.
Is that not correct? The total estimate was 1.3 million.
The other large value buildings that have not been specifically discussed are the Kimball 1 and Kimball 2 buildings. Those combined are about 300, so yes, I'd say you're correct.
So,
If we're gonna do this, why not do it all? If we're gonna do it.
so county money was spent.
Kimball 1 and Kimball 2.
That's way before my time. I would have to defer.
Kimball 1 and Kimball 2.
Yes, so what about the Kimball,
Kimball 1 and 2 were built by grant money, private funds.
okay.
But here again, it's my understanding, it's been my understanding since I've been there, is any building that's reconstruct out there, once it's built, it becomes part of county property.
But there's also a clause in the agreement, that we can renegotiate liability coverage on that, at any point, if I remember correctly, in that agreement.
It was after 2010 or 2003, but we're past the period where we can negotiate who covers the property insurance.
Like I say, we're going to take over the insurance on the Potter County portion once they get replaced.
But only the ones that get replaced, so let's say Kimball 1 and Kimball 2.
No, we'll take up
Everything,
everything.
okay?
The offices, the CEH,
What other property is out there that's not Potter County owned?
There's no property out there.
Okay, so I just wanna make sure I can.
well, you know, the AMC is not owned by Potter County.
It's a venue deal.
It's a venue
Dave,
deal.
can you
Well,
clarify?
that's true, because that's part of the venue.
It's the
We have to-
So who insures that?
We do.
You do today?
Yes.
Okay,
We insure the AMC and those other 4 buildings.
So summarizing this, if we need to replace all of the topical buildings, and we're about, 300 buildings, 300,000, you will accept responsibility for all of the insurance, for all the insurance, of all the facilities out there, with the exception of the community.
Well, I also would like to revisit what Mr. Head said about having us split the cost of the purling replacement with Bill Covey.
If it's required, which is really probably.
And we don't know right now how much is required there, we won't know until we get into it.
But it's probably, I mean, we're in agreement with him, so it's gonna be required.
Yeah.
We think it's gonna be. Tear that roof off, it more likely to be required.
and what is the cost of something like that, Mike? I mean, is it a
If it's-
million, a half
if
a
it's-
million?
No, if it's a total revamp of all the purlings in the building, it's about 300,000.
For total replacement.
Yes, for all, and here again, I don't think we're gonna have to deal with that one. We don't know until we get into it.
And if that's required, in order to replace the roof that we're discussing, then that would be included as part of your plan.
and then that would increase the total claim amount. And so the underlying tone is, we are taking on substantial risk, doubling our claim. We have Steve Lapp who's saying we're seeing abnormal rates, all is well. I think we need to be prepped for that to increase on all of our property, because I would think it would be very abnormal if it was not. And Steve, please keep me in line if I said that incorrectly.
Can I ask a question, Steve? Yes. What about code upgrades?
There are code upgrades in the policy. I don't know what the limit is.
Then also,
So we look at the numbers here, but
And I don't know how much has been used already.
What code did they run it?
Sorry.
What code did they run it?
Baxter, Cody, your occupation.
Like both.
Sorry.
No, we're talking about our factors.
Yes.
The new code.
So right now, the existing code, well, the new code is now R30 after every one, which is fall into previous, so it's R20.
But it's metal roof insulated from inside.
Right.
We need to.
Well, but I don't know, there's no, it still has to be foam and some kind of height.
I don't know if you have coverage. I don't know if you have coverage around that until you decide how they're going
Well, we need to take that into consideration.
I'd like to, this is a little bit off of the subject. I am a big supporter of the importance of fairs and expos. And I see the importance of them to the community where they are. And I know that in lots of counties, states, the government entity they're related to gives them a blank amount of money each year. And then it's up to the fair to do with that as they please. And in the future, I'd like to see us do that. Something to look at and think about. But that doesn't solve our problem. We need to move on.
Let me just say this, if this was just your house and it was damaged, would you want it repaired or would you want it replaced?
Well, if the taxpayers are paying for it.
I'm just saying, if it was my house and it's damaged, I would want it replaced. Because I'm gonna live there. And you guys are gonna live there, and citizens of this county are gonna live there, they're gonna come and visit, they're gonna spend money in the city and the county. I'm for what Mike said.
Are you making a motion?
I'm making a motion that we replace the Cody roof as well as the Rex Baxter building roof. And I'm gonna add one part into the food court to
as a
replace. Is that, would you need it replaced or fixed?
because I think it was detailed, noted as cosmetic.
Everything was positive.
Everything, please. That's my motion, to replace those three. Do I have a second?
May I, add a caveat to that, are you going
Sure.
to?
Go ahead.
Are you going to include the agreement, state, the Tri-State Fair is going to, that they will assume,
Yes, sorry.
all the insurance, if that's done?
Yes.
And to include the structure for the Cody, knowing what is required, once we get the roof off, we know it'll be part of the claim.
And that will be to share the cost.
Okay, can I read that back?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. So, there's a motion to replace the Cody roof, the Rex Baxter roof, food court roof, and the Tri-State Fair will assume all insurance and the structure for the Cody,
Structure
facility.
replacement would be shared between
Shared.
the fairgrounds and the county.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Yeah, is that good? Do I have a second? have a second?
I'm a little concerned about, the other, that totals, it's $900 and something thousand, right?
925, exactly.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
Where are your figures coming from that we can replace that Baxter roof, what, 300 something thousand?
335 and Cody.
I mean, obviously, the reason I asked that, if we go out for bids and there's no way that we can get it done for that, does that come back? Are you with that, or?
We're not
Are we locking ourselves into a figure here?
The county is not locking themselves into a figure. We're not discussing the actual figure. Okay, we're discussing the scope of work. Right.
So it could be more, it could be less.
Yes, ma'am.
It will be more.
Let's, right. You have a motion now. So.
We have a motion.
We have a motion.
We have a second.
Do I have a second? And the last time, do I have a second?
I'm gonna second your motion. See if we get a vote on this thing, one way or the other.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? All who don't care? Do they have 3 opposes? Or no?
I want further discussion.
Okay.
Well, can we revote?
Can we revote?
So there's,
They did.
let me clarify, so we had 2 ayes and 3 abstentions.
I didn't.
I don't have a, that's why I need to vote.
Yeah, but they didn't do anything.
I didn't vote, I wanna vote.
I didn't know either, but.
So are y'all abstaining?
No, I won't vote.
Okay, wait, you have to do something on that motion.
Question.
Okay.
Is there anything that you want to add to this prior to,
To me, this is a financial and insurance issue. I mean, you can do whatever you want to do. I mean, legally speaking, because it is county property. But it, so it comes down to pure finance, in my opinion.
Do we need to make another motion in order to vote?
But you need to finish the vote on the
Finish this one.
first.
Okay, 2, 4, how do you vote on that motion, and we'll make another motion.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh.
Ask me to vote.
I already did, I already did.
with,
I
what
have
am I
2
voting
for,
for?
1 against, and I
Repeat
have
that
2.
again.
Motion to replace the Cody, the Rex Baxter, and the food court roofs. And the Tri-State Fair will assume all after that, the Tri-State Fair will assume all insurance. There's also to include the structure for the Cody facility and to share the cost between the fairgrounds and the county.
That was my motion, perfectly put, Julie.
So
There
we'll
was-
start over with vote.
No, we have to vote on this, then we can make that
I know,
motion
but
again, okay?
what vote are you calling for, the nays or the ayes?
The names.
you've already voted on that.
You don't, you two didn't.
No, but some of you did not raise your
Yeah,
hand.
you'll-
Look at the other, so.
Either way.
I
That's
think-
right, and that's what I'm saying, can we vote, start with the ayes again, so I can vote?
Can we do that, Dave?
Yeah.
Okay, let's.
Do something.
Let's start again.
Because all you're giving me the opportunity to do now is nays.
I got it.
I did not abstain.
That's what I'm giving you, because we need to vote on that.
That's right.
Okay, the motion is still on the table. The same motion Julie just read. All in favor, raise your right hand. Oh, God. Okay. All opposed, raise your right hand. Okay, 3-2. Okay. Three, four.
At least the 3 of them.
Okay, number 15. Software purchase, to consider and act upon approving the agreement with Extract Systems for the purchase of third-party software to be used with the TechShare prosecutor software to be purchased off of TechShare cooperative contract funds approved with approval of TechShare prosecutor project. David?
This was, whenever I originally submitted the budget for the tech share prosecutor package, there was $145,000 in third-party software that was included in the budget you approved. This is the agreement for the purchase, the license agreement, and also the maintenance agreement for that third-party software. And there's actually maybe potentially 2 more packages we'll have to purchase, but we're kind of waiting to see if that's required. But anyway, because it's a contract, I need your approval as a board of this actual agreement. But like I said, the funds are already in place, there's no additional money we're adding for that project.
I have a question.
Yes.
David, just to make sure I'm understanding, this contract, is it in relation to the prosecutor package or the JP package?
Prosecutor, it's only for prosecutor.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Jason, are you comfortable with this agreement and the software license?
Yes.
Any question? Okay.
No, we're good.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a dollar amount?
Yes, it's in here, and I apologize for not calling that out. I'll find the book.
I have 35,724, but I don't know if that's just a small piece of it or if that is the true total cost.
So the license software price is $38,000. It's on Exhibit A in that agreement.
And this is an annual cost?
No, that $38,000 is the one-time license cost. It does have maintenance and support, which is $7,000, and that would be your annual cost is that $7,000. There is an optional price of $27,000, and that's the piece we don't know if we're gonna use yet or not. So we may purchase that, but it's optional because if we don't need it, we don't wanna spend money on it. But they can't tell us that until two months down the line. So.
Okay, and then just the only other comment I have, Carrie, as it relates to the maintenance and support. So we talked about, if I remember correctly, we talked about if other counties buy into this and we actually get dollars back, then we were gonna allocate those dollars so they paid for this maintenance and support. But I know we traditionally, or last year probably, we were more aggressive in moving maintenance and support to the IT budget to get an overall comprehensive look of the county. Will this stay in the DA's account or is it going to the IT?
I think this will go to IT.
Okay.
And because this is a third party, we won't be able to get a reduction on this for that. For the tech share.
It's 20% less than their normal price. Yeah, that contract we're buying off through TechShare, it is a little reduced because we're buying through the CPC.
But if we ever get dollars in, we still have them slotted that they would offset maintenance and support, whether it's a third party or the actual prosecutor's package. I remember that was included in the original motion. So I just wanted to remind everybody, I know we haven't got any money in, but as it comes in. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the agreement with Extract Systems for the purchase of third-party software to be used with TechShare Prosecutor software to be purchased off TechShare cooperative contract and funds included in the original TechShare Prosecutor project.
Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and second, all in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0. Employment items to consider and act upon the following employment items: Extension Office, employment of Elizabeth Gresham, County Extension Agent, effective 4/1/2015, and Road and Bridge, employment of Dave Crew, Seasonal Health Road Crew, effective 5/18. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion that we accept the employment items as presented.
Have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Kelly. I have a motion and second, all in favor, raise your right hand. 0.
And Judge, just a quick note on employment items, we are expecting Brandon Dukes at the first court in June with a new agent to present to the court, so that should be coming soon.
Okay, the jail report today is 469, jail count 469, 79 of those are female. We have 10 children's today. Dave, do we go to executive session before I do the addendum?
Either one is fine, whatever.
Let's do the addendum real fast, and then we'll go to executive session in case something needs to be. The addendum is City of Amarillo Justice Assistant Grant, JAG interlocal agreement to approve the interlocal agreement allocating grant funds to the county from the fiscal year 2015 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Program.
This is a late addition that frankly I forgot to do until Friday, so I had to add it as an addendum, thanks to Stephanie. But anyway, so it's just it's a grant we do at City of Amarillo every year, the Sheriff's Department. The only obligation we have is to spend it on grant purposes. But we need to, we already signed and actually sent back to cities, but we wanted to have a record of being approved by the commissioners.
All right.
Sheriff, what do we use the grant dollars on? Is it roughly 47,000 is what we're receiving? It's a, well, maybe, I'm assuming it's in your division, criminal justice assistance grant,
It
can
okay.
only be used for law enforcement items, and so I think we have some vests that we're looking at, on the grant, on the JAG grant. What else did you put?
What about it?
What else, what were you putting in?
Optics, and, vests. And some other attachments like rifle slings and stuff like that.
Can you explain that if you mind?
That's good, thank you.
We move that the court approve the interlocal grant, allocating grant funds to the county from FY 2015 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Program.
Have a motion, second, did y'all get the second?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor, raise your right hand. 0. Thank you so much. Executive session. Pending litigation, to hold executive session to receive an update from the county attorney regarding pending litigation concerning construction of the Potter County Courthouse project pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.071, allowing the governmental body to conduct a private consultation with its attorney and to take any action appropriate after the session. It is 10:51. We will go to executive session and return later.